content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
Just, I love stories like this because
it's people just someone scared to death. Yeah, that's a real thing.
Just
there are countless stories bad enough. I mean,
people that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination limo.
Too real.
From the mistake on the lake, deep within the great American Rust Belt. I bid you all good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be listening to from. This is T3TV. I'm your host, John Batinski, alongside Steve Buddha Gibson.
What's up? That was a hard open.
I know. And that's it for tonight. Just me and Buddha. No, Dan is still on sabbatical. I thought about going to Dan and queuing him in there.
Would he do?
But
there's probably enough stuff that you have recorded. We could just fit him into the show.
We could, but we will leave Dan alone again tonight. So anyway, how was the week? What's new? What's going on? What's cracking?
Not a whole lot. I went to a new foot doctor yesterday and left feeling very underwhelmed. So that's
really?
that.
What caused that?
Well, I mean, I went to the foot doctor like a year ago, and probably longer than that actually, and was just trying one thing after another and was not getting the result I wanted. And then he basically told me, well, you got to have surgery. I can't do anything else for you. So that was however many months ago, and I went to see this guy, and let's just say after seeing him, he was kind of just like, oh, that's all the stuff you did? Well, let's try the same stuff, but we're going to do it my way and see what happens. And I was like, oh, God damn it.
So
just to see what we need to know. I'm like, I just fucking told you everything I did. So just not feeling too enthusiastic about that now.
But did they give you like at least something that would kind of ease the pain or whatnot?
No.
Oh. Well, so are you going to change doctors, or are you just going to kind of keep rolling with it?
Well, I'm going to see what he says when I go back. Because basically he was like, try this, which is something I've already tried. He said, try this and tell me your results in a week, and then that'll dictate what our next move is.
Gotcha.
And hopefully it's not surgery.
Yeah. It's crazy, like, how to think, some people will say they shattered their foot or their hand, and when I think of shattered, I mean, I think of like a piece of glass that the pieces are so small that they can't be put back together, but yet these people can have their whole hand, whole foot put back together when it's shattered. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing new over here. Same stuff, different week.
You're leaving next week or the following week?
The following week I will not be here. So,
okay.
But yeah. But yeah, we'll be interested to see what happens. And with everything that's changing in the world right now, it's hard to tell what tomorrow brings. So it'll be an adventure regardless.
Tomorrow brings fun times. You should bring your dogs.
No, I don't know. It's a lot of work.
That's a hell of an adventure.
Yeah.
I wish I could take Fred everywhere. It'd be like the greatest road trip ever.
I agree. It's just they're also very nervous and they're very busy. So,
Fred would be terrible. He would literally just sit in the car and pant the whole time.
Yeah. Is he good in the car?
He's hit or miss. Like some days he just immediately is like panting and just doesn't sit still, and he's like slobbering all over the place. And then other times, like we'll go a 35-minute ride, 40-minute ride to take him to the park, and he's
And
like
he's an angel.
chill the whole time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like Natalie, she brought me lunch today at work, but in order for her to do that, she had to go pick him up, go take him to get food, and then go from there to the job I was at. And that was like 40 minutes. And then they went on a walk. And she was like, oh, he was totally fine. Didn't make any noise for the 40 minutes before the walk. So I'm like, how the fuck? He's like in the car for 40 minutes and he's fine. And then I drive him from my house to York and he's like fucking throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the car. Maybe it's the setting. Who knows?
He hates my truck. Like,
Yeah.
despises my truck. If he would stop sitting like a person in my truck, like with his legs forward and everything, maybe he'd be more comfortable. But yeah,
It's crazy, like how uncanny like some of their human traits are. But
oh yeah,
so we'll get into some news here, and then I had an interesting topic for tonight. But this one's off of the New York Post. New study shows that Stonehenge rocks are nearly 2 billion years old. Have you heard or seen anything on this one?
no. But didn't they say that they're actually an older story that they're actually buried like just as much into the ground as they are out of the ground?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Stonehenge?
Yeah, and then also like the distance. They're actually, I mean, for as big as they are, the distance that they've moved is crazy too. I mean, it's not like they were brought over or dug up on site. Like they were moved quite a bit of distance. But so off the New York Post, a long piece of Stonehenge has been revealed. The prehistoric monument is nearly 2 billion years old, giving a new insight into its super durable makeup, according to a new study. The study showed that the silicate compound of the rock is largely composed of grains cemented tightly together, interlocking crystals of quartz, which is extremely durable and does not easily crumble or erode, even when exposed to the elements. The megaliths are made of stone called silicate, which formed gradually within a few yards of the surface as a result of the groundwater washing through the underground sediment. Researchers studied a core sample of the rock called Stone 58, which was kept in the U.S. for decades before being returned to Britain for research in 2018. The sarns were erected at the site on Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire by late Neolithic people around 2500 BC. So, again, 2 billion years old. I mean, I don't know how old they consider the universe, but that's still pretty freaking old.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. Like how old is the actual age of the Earth?
Right. Well, and the other thing too is like, how can they really? And when it's funny how people always put into context like how do they or who's they,
Right.
But how do scientists? How do they even gauge, like, and determine like, oh, that's about 2 billion,
I mean, isn't it all carbon dating though?
But still, what formula leads you to that conclusion?
Well, hang on. The age of Earth is estimated to be 4.54 plus or minus 0.05 billion years. So 4.5 billion years old.
Right.
So
not that old.
yeah.
It's not past its prime yet. But
I'm curious now. How does carbon dating work?
Right. I don't know. It's probably something Gary could probably easily explain. But
Right. For the fuck, get him on the horn.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, how do they land on that number and that, yeah, all right, that sounds good. I don't know. So, but yeah, 2 point.
Hang on. I'm trying to look this up just to, let's see. So certain chemical elements have more than one type of atom. Different atoms of the same element are called isotopes. Carbon has 3. Okay. No one cares about that shit. Dumb it down this is actually called carbon dating made simple. Okay.
All right.
It just says, by counting how many carbon atoms in any object with carbon in it, we can work out how old the object is. So I guess it's kind of like looking at the rings of a tree in the most simplified way, the amount of carbon-14 atoms. Huh.
Carbon
So it says-
dating. Now it
There
makes
you go.
sense.
Yeah. So they have three main isotopes in carbon are carbon-12, carbon-13, and carbon-14. Carbon-12 makes up 99% of an atom. Carbon-13 makes up 1%. Carbon-14 makes up 1 part per million. Carbon-14 is radioactive, and it is this radioactivity which is used to measure age. And then it just says, radioactive atoms decay into stable atoms. Half of the available atoms will change, known as half-life, blah, blah, blah. So, for instance, if 1,000 atoms in the year 2000 had a half-life of 10 years, then in 2010 there would be 500 left. 2020 there would be 250 left. 2030 there would be 125. So the amount of atoms that are left over of carbon-14 determines the age.
Wow. 2.5 billion. All right. Well,
the more you know.
Yeah. There are more important things going on in the world right now, like J-Lo and Ben Affleck being on a boat together.
We really need to carbon date Dan.
Oh my God. He predates the
why
Earth.
would you do that?
All right. Let's see here. Here's another interesting story. This one is out of SciTechDaily.com. Quantum crystal with time reversal could be a new dark matter sensor. Physicists at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, have linked together or entangled a mechanical motion and electronic properties of a tiny blue crystal, giving it a quantum edge in measuring electrical fields with record sensitivity that may enhance the understanding of the universe. Oh my goodness.
So what does that mean?
It means I don't know. I just thought the story sounded cool.
What does it all mean, Basil?
This coffee tastes like shit. The quantum sensor consists of 150 beryllium ions, electronically charged atoms, confined in a magnetic field so that they are self-arranged into a flat 2D crystal just 200 millionths of a meter in diameter. Quantum sensors such as this have the potential to detect signals from dark matter, a mysterious substance that might turn out to be among the theory's subatomic particles that interact with normal matter through a weak electromagnetic field. The presence of dark matter could cause the crystal to wiggle in telltale ways, revealed by the collective charges among the crystal. Dude, have I lost you yet? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I mean, they found some stuff, I guess.
Wait, is this like a normal news article?
SciTech Daily.
Okay, so it's not like we're just so dumb that we can't understand this standard article. This is written for specialists,
Yeah.
or people that have an actual interest in whatever the fuck you were just talking about.
It came up in stuff for me. I subscribe to a couple different feeds.
Did you like my behavioral biology lecture that I did?
I did. I stumbled onto it, and then it just kind of kept playing, and I was like, this isn't bad.
So you found it interesting.
Did
I at least sound smart in it?
Yes.
Nice.
Okay. One other thing that I wanted to go over here real quick, and I was perusing the news, but again, it's just the same old crap. It's just, news hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last year.
The world has been a shitstorm for the last year and a half. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Have you heard also about the circular electron positron collider in China?
No.
And so, I guess the Chinese are proposed this in the 2012. It's a Chinese high energy physics community that proposed this, but basically this thing is going to be the underground particle smashing ring aims to be at least twice the size of the globe's current leader, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. And so we're just building these particle colliders bigger and bigger, and it's at the same time, like, what are we trying to achieve here?
Wasn't everybody all terrified because they said that they were going to potentially
rip space and time apart,
like create a black hole on Earth and then not be able to do anything about it?
Yeah, well,
wasn't that the whole? Was that more of like a facetious joke, or is that like people are like, no, like literally, what the fuck are we doing at CERN?
There were people that were legitimately scared of that, and that's where I'm at. Like, what's the end goal here? Like, are we trying to create particles? Or are we trying to create a new, like, the other thing is, what if they collide particles and we create a whole new universe from within this thing? Like, I don't know. But I saw that
like
they
the
were
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, kind of. But I don't understand what the reasoning behind this is. I'm not that smart. I thought maybe you would be a little smarter than me.
To be honest, like, what if it already happened?
No. So
No?
I was. What do you mean already happened? Give me an
Like, what if they actually did create another universe and we're in it right now?
Well, and yes, you make a good point. So the pre-study and R&D work was done already through 2013 to 15. R&D went through 2016 to 2020. Engineering design was 2015 through 2020. Construction's going to take from this year till 2027, and then data taking from 2028 to 2035. And so let's see. I'll be 50 years old then. My God. I'm old. I already feel like I'm 50. I feel like I'm 100. But
dude, it's always crazy to me, like, when they talk about, like, this is what we're going to do. These are the steps. It's going to take 10 years, and then this project will be complete. Like, where the fuck is the world going to be in 10 years? Like, where is... And I think that's something we've touched on before, where, like,
right.
You know, where is technology going to be in 10 years? Like, what if you put all of this money and time and effort into it, and even halfway through it, you're like, this ain't even fucking worth it. But your game plan was to do it over 10 years, you know? I don't know. That's always like, I understand with whatever you're doing, like, you don't want to bang it out in a week and be like, here's our new shit, you know, this is the new product. But at the same time, like, 10 years, what happens with the technological advances in 10 years is just like crazy. Like, even just talking about computers as the best example, even computers now,
they're going to turn it on, and then they're going to be like, we can now finally unscramble all this porn. They said this thing is big enough to encircle the entire island of Manhattan as well. But again, what's the end goal? I mean, yeah, we can smash particles together all day. What are we looking to do by doing that?
I guess, like, what do they actually do?
Take up a bunch of money. Things costing $5 billion, but...
Yeah, but no, but, like, what do they actually do? I'm curious. You can say research and study all day fucking long, but what are the tangible results? What are they actually getting?
All right, so I'm going to this. Particle accelerators can be used to create radioactive material by shooting charged particles at atoms to change them into different unstable atoms. The radioactive material produced can be used for research, medicine, or other applications. So this also kind of ties back into some of the stuff that Lazar was talking about, and they think that maybe they could have... So that element that Lazar said that the craft from S4, element 115, they could simulate it by doing something similar to this, by adding particles to a current element, thus I can't say it.
Synthesizing?
Yes, element 115. Synthesizing. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But can be used for research, medicine, or other applications. And so, what research are they doing? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, like, are we talking... I don't know. I'm not smart enough to handle a topic like this, but it's like, when you think of radioactive things, like, okay, well, nuclear power.
Hey, it looks fucking stupid.
Right? Yes. Like, is it a way to enhance nuclear power? Is it going to be used for a weapon? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with it?
Well, they have audio of this running too, which is, it sounds crazy. So here, hold on, let me pull it up. All right, here it is.
God damn it.
You hear
That
the
does sound highly radioactive. You can hear the particles splitting apart.
Yeah. And then it ends up with a... Yeah, there you go. New particles. All right. So yeah, I came across a story today. I listened to a lot of Reddit threads on YouTube, and they had made mention that there was a particle accelerator being built that was twice or vastly bigger than the one at CERN, and I'm like, okay, what for? But it is what it is. All right, so Buddha, what do you got tonight?
John.
Yep.
Did you want to... We can do a quick recap of the stuff that we talked about last week, and then since you said to hold off on that story and finish it up this week,
Yeah.
the exorcism stuff.
Yes.
You good with that?
Sure.
All right. So anybody that didn't tune in last week or just needs a quick refresher, if you're one of the 6 people that listens to this show, the story was about a woman and her children who lived in a house, and they allegedly were dealing with like a demon possession. And the big thing that was kind of like the big push behind the story was that it was like very heavily documented between like the nurses, the doctors, the Department of Child Services, the police department. And there's a bunch of stuff like in the actual, like the DOC reports and stuff like that. So that's kind of what makes this one of those ones. I said DCS. I'm sorry, not DOC. But yeah, that's kind of the big thing behind this is that, you always hear about, oh, this ghost sighting, and then they play up these stupid ass shows on sci-fi, and then everyone just cuts to commercial real quick, and everybody goes, whoa. Ghost. Yeah, that fucking idiot. But so that this was actually like documented by multiple sources. And that was kind of, so pretty much where we left off was they were in the hospital, I believe is where we were left off. Pretty much people were now starting to kind of come around to the idea that, maybe there actually is something going on, like where they had talked about one of the nurses holding one of the boys' hands, and then he like kind of floated backwards and like walked up the wall. And I know it sounds crazy, and Rob actually made the point of, I think this was 2012, so it's like, where the fuck was the camera phones? Like that stuff was around. It looked like it'd be filmed with a potato, but it's still, there was some type of footage. So there's always that idea, and myself being a skeptic, I agree with like, where the fuck was the footage at? But anyway, nevertheless, it's still an interesting story.
Well,
so
the argument also too is like a lot of these exorcisms that we've talked about, there was always some sort of documentation going on during them, and so there wasn't on any of this.
You mean like the people performing the exorcisms?
Yeah, like all the tape recordings and things that had happened during all the those exorcisms, and then all of a sudden like this one doesn't have any of that. So
no, I agree. It is kind of weird. Like, well, I can't even say to watch any exorcism. Yes, any exorcism, but like some of the old tapes where like you could tell it was filmed on like the old beta cams.
Yeah. And
you're just like, man, someone would have to go to an awful lot of trouble to make themselves look utterly ridiculous for the off chance that somebody might see that in the fucking 90s, where like, it's not like the internet, anyone uploads a video and it's the potential for anybody to see it is there. But like in the 80s and 90s, when you had like those old ass cameras and you're recording straight to like a VHS, like who the fuck's gonna see that?
Right.
It's not even, you can't even like go viral in that time.
It's funny you should mention that. I was listening to a thread on the way home where they were talking about butterfly effects, and one of the people that posted on this thread had made mention that they decided one day to post a video on YouTube because they were tired of just showing their phone to people. It was them feeding like some cats, and the video went viral people were calling. So this person made a bunch of money just off of like doing something like that.
Wait, posted a video on their phone? Is that what you're saying?
They took a video of themselves feeding their cats, and instead of like showing somebody with their phone all the time, they're like, here, just go to this link to see what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And so, but by them doing
kind of like
that,
Two Girls, One Cup. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
But they ended up making a bunch of money off of just posting a video by coincidence that they never thought would have done anything. And so, I don't know what led me to.
Well, I mean, dude, look at the stuff that like goes viral nowadays.
Yeah.
Like most of it's just stupid shit. I mean, the fact that
the
fact that
turtles.
we're sitting here doing this right now is like no one would have ever thought of that even being a possibility 20 years ago.
Right.
You know,
Even 10 years ago, really. I mean, there was Ustream and stuff, but it's way more commonplace now.
well, I think also the fact that you can just do it right from your phone, you know, like the amount of accessibility is just like endless.
Speaking of which, and not to, we're going off on a tangent here, but did you see, all right, so the Indians changed their name to the Guardians, right? And
Right.
they did this promotional video, and Tom Hanks was the one that did the narration for it. He recorded it on his phone.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's the audio that they used.
Huh.
So this
Yeah,
giant promotional video like was just recorded on a phone. And it doesn't sound bad.
I mean, dude, I've seen a lot of people like solo musicians and stuff will literally just have like the latest iPhone and record stuff on there and it sounds totally fine.
Meanwhile, like 15 years ago, we're like, oh, this sounds great. And it just comes through and it just sounds like total piss.
Yeah. Yeah, it still happens to me now.
Everything is pre-EQ'd and pre-compressed and like, so that it just out the box comes out sounding great. And it kind of sucks. It kind of cheapens the craft because it's like, well, now anybody can do it. Whereas like, I mean, you guys went to school for that stuff. So to learn, you know, people have commented on how like this show sounds compared to some other ones. And they're like, well, the audio quality is great. You know, it's like, well, we took a long time to learn how to do all this shit.
The audio quality is great. The content,
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, but anyway, on to the story. So, like I said, as a continuation, so Latoya Ammons, which as a recap is the mother, and I forget the grandmother's name. It's Campbell, but well, her last name is Rosa. Rosa Campbell is the grandmother. So Ammons ends up spending the night at her hospital, and this is all after, like I said, like one of the worst of the onsets, like of the alleged possession happens, and this is when like the two boys are kind of like, you know, literally growling at each other, telling them they're going to kill each other. Like the one boy starts like headbutting his grandmother, which Rosa Campbell, and it says that she kind of just grabbed her grandson's hand, started praying, and this is what they quoted as evidence, or more so evidence or proof of paranormal activity. And it says an account corroborated by the nurse who was present at the time said the 9-year-old had a weird grin, walked backward up a wall to the ceiling, then flipped over his grandmother landing on his feet, never letting go of her hand. And in quote, he walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there. There's no way he could have done that. And like I said, that's being corroborated by the grandmother, by the nurse who was there present. And she said it wasn't like he just like was walking. He more so glided backward on the floor, wall, and ceiling. And that's actually written in the police report. Doesn't make it true, but it's written in the police report. Police report. God, I can't talk tonight. And of course, like, you know, when it gets questioned to the boys, they don't remember anything that happened. But anyway, so Latoya Ammons said she spends the night at the hospital with her 7-year-old while the grandmother takes her daughter and son home in Gary, which is in Indiana. And the next day was actually her youngest son's 8th birthday. And Ammons was asked by DCS to bring the older children back to the hospital. God, I cannot talk. Bring the older children back to the hospital so that they can talk about what had just happened the night prior. And, they kind of had like a little birthday celebration there for him. And it really wasn't about anything to talk about. It was DCS was taking custody of her children because they said they were going through like a spiritual and emotional distress. And that was actually written on the DCS form. So at this point now, the DCS is kind of starting to think like, okay, either this woman is putting her kids up to this or is kind of like, I guess, grooming them for this, possibly for attention, who knows? And that's kind of where she's like, well, we've literally been going through like this nonstop ordeal, and with it all being documented and everything, which is kind of crazy. They're just going to up and take my kids. And that's pretty much where we left off last time. So, and it says, a Reverend Michael, I don't know how to say his last name, Maginot, something, I'm just going to say Maginot. Reverend Michael Maginot was leading a Bible study in his living room the morning of April 20th, 2012, when he receives a call from the hospital chaplain. He had been the priest at St. Stephen Martyr Parish in Maryville for more than 10 years, but had never received a request like this one. The chaplain asked him to perform The chaplain asked him to perform an exorcism on Ammon's 9-year-old son. He agreed to interview the family, and the first step was that he wanted to rule out just, natural causes, make sure there wasn't any, him being put up to it, or, whether an illness or injury or anything like that. So Michael goes and he visits Ammons and he visits Campbell in their home, sat there for a couple hours, and they kind of told him all the case details and just the ordeal that they've been having. And, it says that Campbell interrupts the interview to point out a flickering bathroom light. And every time that Michael would walk over to investigate it, it seems like the light would stop. And then, of course, he equated that or attributed that to some type of demonic presence. And his whole thing was like, oh, okay, I'm a priest, this thing is scared of me. So it says the interview was interrupted again when Campbell pointed out that the Venetian blinds in the kitchen started swinging, even though there was no air. And Maginot said he saw wet footprints through the living room. Ammons then begins to complain about having a headache, and she then started convulsing when Maginot placed a crucifix against her head. See, stuff like this is kind of like what we said, where you start to go, man, where was the fucking documentation?
Right.
And, don't shoot the messenger, because I know I'm the one telling the story. But when you see that stuff, you're either going to be on the side of okay, well, it was 2012. Where the fuck's the cameras? Or you're going to be on the side of wow, that's crazy. I can't believe that happened. I guess you could be in the middle. But anyway, I'll keep going. And it says after a 4-hour interview, Maginot said he was convinced that the family was being tormented by demons and that they also had ghosts in the house. So before he left, he blessed the house, read from the Bible, sprinkled holy water in each room, just kind of did, I guess, what you would call the usual spiel through everything. The usual shtick when you got the demonic presence in the house. And then he basically told Ammons and Campbell that they should leave the house because it's not safe. So they temporarily moved in with a relative. Which, I guess is another question. If all of this shit is going on, and it has been going on for this long, and allegedly this fucking severe, and all you had to do is move in with a relative, why didn't you just do that? Maybe try it out for a week, see what happens.
But did anybody stay there?
In the house when?
Well, okay, so they move in with, those people move in with the relative.
Temporarily.
Right. Is the person possessed still staying there?
Well, the boys were into custody of the DCS, so they weren't even there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the whole thing of they were the ones getting the brunt of it. The grandmother said that she was born with protection, whatever the fuck that means. And the mom wasn't getting as much of it. But so they go to stay with a relative, and less than a week later, the two of them are back in the same house on Carolina Street to let the DCS family case manager in because she needs to, check the condition of the home. And they brought a Lake County police officer with them and two other officers, one from Gary and one from Hammond police departments. And they were asked to join them out of professional curiosity. Because at this point, this case is kind of making a big stink. It's starting to get, not like worldwide, but it's getting like a little bit of notoriety. So it says Ammons refused to go inside, but Campbell agreed to accompany them. And all while, just to the point we just made, the kids were still in DCS custody. So the main floor had 3 bedrooms, a living room, a bathroom, and a bathroom. Hardwood floors, a small open-style kitchen, and a door in the kitchen led to a basement with concrete floors. And directly under the stairs was a dirt floor. The concrete around it was jagged as though it had been broken. And it said they had a makeshift altar that, if you remember from last week, they were told to make an altar and place all kinds of stuff on it.
Right.
So it says the makeshift altar Ammons had created was still in place, along with the rings of salt she had poured against the basement walls to dissuade the demons, and that was according to her Hammond Police Department report. Campbell told officers the demons seemed to emanate from beneath the stairs, and Austin, who was the captain from the Gary Police Department, was one of those officers. And he later told that he believed in ghosts and the supernatural, but he didn't believe in demons, which I don't really know how you draw the line, but whatever. And it said that after visiting this house, it changed his mind, and then he then started to believe in demons, which I guess if you believe in ghosts and supernatural, I would think that those would kind of all fall into at least one of those categories, but
right.
I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. So during the interview with Campbell, one of the officer's audio recorders malfunctioned, according to Austin and Hammond's police records. The power light flashed to indicate the batteries were dying, even though the officer had placed fresh batteries in the recorder earlier that day. Another officer recorded audio, and when he played it back later, heard an unknown voice whisper, "Hey," according to the Lake County records. Once again, where is that? And even then, if you hear it and all you hear is a word, that's so easy to just hear any random noise and equate that to hearing something because you want to hear something. You're looking for something.
A placebo effect.
Yeah, and especially when it's something that's so, hey is almost just like a sound. It's not multiple syllables or anything like that. It's just like a grunt but I digress. It says the officer also took photos of the house, and in one of the photos of the basement stairs, there was a cloudy white image in the upper right-hand corner. When the officer enlarged the photos, the cloud appeared to resemble a face. The enlargement also revealed a second green image that the police say looked like a female. Austin, who said he snapped photos with his iPhone, also seemed to have strange silhouettes in them, and the radio in his police-issued Ford malfunctioned on the way home. So that stuff, show me the photos. I would like to see them. But my radio malfunctioned or, my flashlight turned off, that stuff's purely anecdotal. That's not evidence. That's just, it's a fluke.
Right.
But I mean, anyway. And it says, so later on, Austin said the garage at his Gary home refused to open even though the power was on everywhere else. His driver's seat in his personal 2005 Infiniti started moving backward and forward on its own. He took the car to the dealership, and the mechanic told him the motor on the driver's seat was broken, which the mechanic said could have caused a distraction leading to an accident. I don't see how that has anything to do with that, though, because it's a fucking Infiniti. Of course that shit broke. But, and then he also said he found himself starting to believe Ammon's claim of paranormal activity. And the mental health professionals evaluating Ammons and her children remained skeptical. So now at this point, the DCS kind of moves to what they're going to do with the children. So April of 2012, they petitioned Lake Juvenile Court for temporary wardship of the children, which was granted. DCS found that Ammons neglected her children's education by not having them in school regularly, and they made the same finding in 2009. There were times she told the DCS, Ammons told DCS, there were times when she could not send the kids to school because the spirits would make them sick and they would be up all night without sleep. So like this is kind of where I understand like the investigation, because you're like, man, like are you crazy? Are you actually seeing these things happening? And are you impacting your children? You know, or is that shit actually happening? You know what I mean? Like how do you prove it without being there? Like if all of this stuff was going on in my house, especially in 2012, the first thing that like if I'm going to try to react or like prove it is I'm going to set up a camera or multiple cameras. Like, right? You want to document it somehow.
Right. Well, I mean, at least that will help you lead credibility to your story.
Right. So it says, so DCS temporarily placed her daughter and older son at a home in East Chicago, and her youngest son was sent to Christian Haven for psychiatric evaluation. And clinical psychologists who evaluated her youngest son said the boy tended to act possessed when he was challenged, redirected, or asked questions he didn't want to answer. In her evaluation, Wright wrote that he seemed coherent and logical except when he talked about demons. So, like, at that point, like I said, like, were they coached? Is it an act? Or, like, what do you start like thinking about an actual mental disorder at that point? Like, what if they're schizophrenic? You know, something like that. So it says, it was then that the 8-year-old stories start becoming bizarre, fragmented, and illogical, and his stories would change each time he told them. He changed the subject, quizzing Wright on math problems and asking her about outer space. And then he would say things like, can you die if you go to space? How do you go to space? Do you have to wear a helmet? Blah, 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 blah. And then it was concluded that the 8-year-old did not suffer from a true psychotic disorder. And in quote, this appears to be an unfortunate and sad case of a child who had been induced into a delusional system perpetuated by his mother and potentially reinforced by other relatives. And that was in the actual psychological evaluation of the youngest child. So then there was another psychologist that evaluated Ammon's daughter and son, and they basically came to a similar conclusion that like this stuff was all kind of being brought on, you know, by the parent, like instilling these ideas of like, no, our house is haunted. Yes, you're being possessed, so on and so forth. And it says there appeared to be a need to assess the extent into which his Ammon's daughter may have been unduly influenced by her mother's concerns that the family was exposed to paranormal experiences. So that's what one of the psychologists said. Like, basically, it make it all sound like the woman is just pressing all this stuff onto her children, and then that's why they're acting the way that they are. So the daughter told him that she actually used to see shadowy figures in the Carolina Street home. She went into trances multiple times, and that Ammon's older son told Schwartz the doors would slam and stuff started moving around. So like typical ghost story stuff. And Ammons herself was also evaluated or examined by the psychologists, and they just kind of said like it didn't seem like she was experiencing any type of psychosis or thought disorder, but she did come off as guarded when she was actually talked about it.
You know, it's crazy. All right, so think about like ghosts or spirits or whatnot just for a second. Like, if they're just another level of consciousness, why do they have like a human form? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think if you look at it like that, it's because assuming it was I guess like the best way for me to think about it is that your mind needs to equate it to not like a shape, but I guess it kind of is a shape, but like your mind needs to equate it to something that it can maybe not recognize, but like put a face to. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
not like figuratively. like it needs to be, I guess, like something that you can visualize and focus on. I don't know. I mean, why do some of them come off as like, if people see them, it's like, why does it resemble or look like someone or something that they've never met before, and then find out that that thing exists?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, how credible is the person? But at the same time, even if they're not credible, how, and if they truthfully have never seen, like, oh, so and so haunts this, and then like you go to a house and you're like, I saw this girl, and then someone's like, oh, by the way, this girl died and she looked like this. Like, the chances when those like descriptions like actually match up with not knowing anything at all about whether the history of the house or the people or whatever, like, why does that happen in times where, they're almost spot on with whatever the description was, or, you know what I'm trying to say? I know I'm getting very wordy right now.
Yeah, no, I'm picking it up.
So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like that same thing where, like, when I worked at, when I went to do that job at LaSalle Theater, like, I'd never even heard of LaSalle Theater before until I went to that job. And like I told you, man, like, it's closed down. I was the only one with the key. It's literally being renovated. And I opened up the vestibule and I go in, and there's no lights because there's no power. I have to go in. I have to unlock the building, go inside, walk through the vestibule, walk into the main room and off to the side to turn the power on to the building. So, like, why is it that I had zero preconceived notions about this place at all, because I'd never even heard of it. So I walk in and I'm in the vestibule and I just hear like fanfare, like, like just how the crowd sounds when they're basically just making a bunch of noise, but you can't actually single anything out. And like, I heard that, and literally like the hair on the back of my neck just stood up. And then I opened the door and go like to the main room. The second I pull the door open, it immediately stops, and there's no lights on anywhere because there was no power to the building. Like, that to me was fucking crazy, because after that happened, I walked back out and I called Andy and I was like, is this place fucking haunted? And he was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, that was his exact answer. But that's the thing, is like, I had no preconceived notion. I've never been there. I'd never heard of it. I didn't even know what it was. He just said, go here, do some stuff, and then call me when you're done. I don't know, man. The feeling and the sound, that to me is a real one for me. I mean, but I'm not going to tell you I saw some fucking ghost, or I saw anybody up in the fucking projector room, or, anything like that. But yes. But,
so open the door, and all of a sudden I heard.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
But yeah, so there's still a little bit left to this story. I'm just kind of jump through jump to more so the end of it, because it's kind of more of the same, where it's like, at this time they go back to the house and there's, the grandmother, there's Ammons, there's multiple police officers, and they're joined by the priest. And now, like, literally everybody is there, and a county officer takes his dog around the house, and the dog doesn't find really interest anywhere. So everybody kind of heads to the basement, and, all of a sudden now they see like a strange, like a strange liquid dripping in the basement. And the priest says, no, I want to check the dirt that was under the stairs for a pentagram, or, something that may be like a cursed object or something like that, just to see if there was anything that would indicate a presence. And so they end up digging a 4-foot by 3-foot hole in the stairs, unearthing a pink press-on fingernail, a white pair of panties, a political shirt pin, a lid for a small cooking pan, socks with bottoms cut off below the ankles, candy wrappers, a heavy metal object, and a weight for a drapery cord. Okay, well, whatever. But it says they don't find anything else, and they basically put the dirt back, raked it over. Maginot blessed some salt, which allegedly to him is a barrier to evil, spread it under the stairs and all throughout the basement. And later, standing in the room, the rest of the group, when her left, oh, this is just another person talking about how they felt like they got attacked, felt like her finger was broken. 10 minutes later, she thought as if she was having a panic attack, couldn't breathe, walked outside. The priest questions Ammons, and she complains of a headache and shoulder pain, goes outside, and then Austin, the other officer, said he left the house at nightfall. And it says, Austin, who has been shot at and has investigated murders, rapes, armed robberies during his more than 3 decades on the force, said he wasn't staying in the house past the dark. So apparently he's buying into the hype at this point. And, the other cops are just kind of walking through the house, and they start to notice the other oil-like substance again, dripping from the Venetian blinds in the bedroom. And then just to make sure that, Campbell or Ammons hadn't poured anything on, they used paper towels to clean it off, sealed the room for 25 minutes, and stood nearby so no one could walk in. When they went back in, the oil had reappeared, according to police records. And then the priest comes out and says the liquid is a manifestation of a paranormal or demonic presence. And he wrote like a big detailed report asking the bishop to perform an exorcism on Ammons. And it says they had not authorized an exorcism in 21 years from the Diocese of Gary. And then it kind of goes into a bunch of fucking rigmarole. And it says Maginot said he needed other priests to give him the ritual for a minor exorcism, which does not require church approval. The priest the priest consulted him to look it up on the internet. So anyone that needs to do an exorcism straight from the fucking priest's mouth, look it up on the internet. That just makes it even more believable. So anyway, says he does an intense blessing on the Carolina Street home to expel bad spirits. The same day, Maginot performed a minor exorcism on Ammons. The ritual consisted of prayers, statements, and appeals to cast out demons. 2 police officers, the DCS family manager. So there's multiple people attending these exorcisms. Once again, where's the fucking cameras or photos or something? And it says that, they talked about like kind of just having chills during this 2-hour exorcism. Like someone was in the room with you. But they couldn't really come out and say like, oh yes, it was demonic, but it definitely felt like there was something there. And then people go on to talk about having like, just horrible bad luck. Like one woman said after visiting house the last time, she got 3rd-degree burns from a motorcycle. Within 30 days, she broke 3 ribs jet skiing, broke a hand when she hit a table, broke an ankle running in flip-flops. And I had friends who wouldn't talk to me because they believed that something had attached itself to me.
Yeah, but that's just doesn't sound like she's practicing a whole lot of safety either.
Yeah, you ran in fucking flip-flops.
Yeah.
Come on. Be an adult. Yeah. And then it just, after the minor ritual, Maginot told Ammons to look up the names of the demons that were tormenting her. And then just kind of goes on to say like, oh, names have power. They look stuff up, blah, blah, blah. And as they tried to look it up, the computer just kept shutting down. And then it says they finally found names that fit. And it talks about like, oh, one of them was Beelzebub. And it's like, okay, well, now you're literally just grabbing, one of the high profile names that literally everybody knows.
Grabbing straws there.
Yeah. But he pretty much just kind of said, I did this exorcism. Shit got real. And everybody lived happily ever after, apparently. In between the 2nd and 3rd exorcism, Maginot said he went on a retreat. Let's see. Yeah, it just says evidently they performed multiple exorcisms and they helped set up a backup plan in case Ammons had problem while Maginot was gone. The woman wrote a long demon name. Maginot said he can't remember which one it was, but it was on a piece of paper, and then she surrounded it with blessed salt. And then if Ammons had problems, the woman would just burn the envelope with the name on it, which like all this stuff just seems kind of fucking crazy. And yeah, it's just pretty much the final exorcism, which was at the end of June 2012, Maginot said he prayed and berated the demons in Latin rather than English. Police officers did not attend, go figure. So Maginot said his brother stood guard. It was stated that Ammons convulsed while he condemned the demons, but did not convulse during prayer. When she fell asleep, he said the words of thanksgiving. Let us eat. And it would be the last time Ammons saw the priest. She and her mother drove back to Indianapolis, where they say they now live without fear. And Ammons' old home on Carolina Street became an object of local curiosity, so much so that the owner and landlord called the Gary Police Department to ask officers to stop driving by the house because it was scaring his new tenant.
Wow.
And he basically said, like, there were no problems in the home before or after she lived there. So he even said, like, you know, this is a new one to me. I've been a landlord for 33 years, and my belief system has a hard time jumping over that bridge. And he did say, like, when they had gotten the church involved, he seemed less skeptical. She did ultimately regain custody of her three children in November, which is about 6 months after they were taken. And, you know, just kind of, that's it. They performed a bunch of exorcisms, and evidently everybody's happy, but they don't even live in that house anymore. So I don't know.
And the kids are grown up now, or at least pretty close to it.
Well,
so,
now they'd be close, because this was 2012.
So we were talking about almost 10
almost
years
10
ago.
years. Yeah, so the oldest would be like 18.
Wow.
But yeah, and then of course, like, the last quote is Ammon saying, when you hear something like this, don't assume it's not real, because I've lived it. I know it's real. It's like, and like, you know, who knows? It very might well be. I don't know. I've just personally never experienced anything like that. So, you know, I don't know. It's kind of a wild one because of the amount of, I guess, written documentation. But when you really get into it, there's not, like, I don't see the pictures and the audio that they said that they captured, you know, and the video. Like, I don't know. 2012, man. Like, that shit was around.
Yeah. And easily dispersed.
For sure. Yeah. It's not like the internet was new.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, the ones where you actually, you know, go back, some of these exorcisms from like the 70s, the 80s that are actually caught on tape, they sound real, especially some of these people, when their voice changes and certain words make them more and more violent. Like, to me, that's hard to fake, in my opinion. You know, especially for, if you're not an actor, like, people, you know, make fun of actors or whatnot and say, oh, well, they play pretend for a living. But to be convincing is really, really hard, especially like with something like that. And some of that shit is really scary. So,
did you ever see the photos of the one? I think we actually talked about this before. The one where the woman was like hearing noises. And like there was a paranormal investigator that came over and like a photographer that came over, and they went up in the attic, and the dude got like hung up by like his the lanyard for his camera, and then there's like a photo of it like pulling up on him from like the attic crawl space door, which is in the ceiling, and the photo is like an upshot. I think it was that one, or if it was up in the attic, I don't remember, but. That's like an old one. I don't know. I'm trying to remember that case.
No, I don't remember off the top of my head, but
yeah, I wish I could remember the name of that one. I'm trying to look that up right now.
Yeah.
Well, because it's kind of an interesting picture. I'll have to look it up. I thought we talked about that one, but
right.
Yeah, apparently not.
Well, I mean, like I said, to me, there's not a whole lot backing it up other than just
hearsay.
Yeah, and so on this one, I'm not buying it. But again, I could be wrong.
You know what's crazy though, man? Like, you know, I know like you feel differently, but like I don't buy into the whole religion thing at all. but the amount of like hoops you have to jump through in order to, you know, perform an exorcism like is kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get permission, and it's like it's got to be sanctioned. It's like the mafia. It's gonna be hit.
Yeah, like it really is. And like here's
We're gonna hit
like,
this demon.
Yeah, like
take
I
out
was
this
looking
guy.
at
He's got to go.
I was looking at this story of this other priest who's in Indianapolis, and it says like this guy does thousands of exorcisms a year. Thousands. Like that literally means multiple times a day. Like,
Yeah.
because
I mean,
anyway,
yeah.
so he does thousands of exorcisms all around central Indiana, and yeah, his name's Reverend Vince Lampert, or yeah, I think it's Lampert or something like that. Says, well, it doesn't matter where he grew up, but it just talks about he was initially appointed to the exorcism ministry. Like that's a fucking thing.
Yeah,
the
but
exorcism ministry.
But here's the thing, though. Like, what does he consider like an exorcism? If somebody's, you know, a smoker and they want to quit smoking, is he going to exorcise the cigarette demon from somebody?
Well, I guess
does he
it
count
depends.
that as one? You know,
I think it depends how much of a pagan you want to be.
Well, that and how much money you got on you.
Yeah. How much does an exorcism cost? Should
Let's
look
ask
that
him.
up.
Yeah.
But it says like
If he charges,
he's-
then you know for a fact he's bullshitting.
Oh, for sure. But it says when he was initially appointed to this exorcism ministry, he was one of 12 in the United States, and then now there's more than 125.
It's like Harry
And at the
Potter.
time, this article, yeah.
Ministry of Magic.
So this article's from
God, sorry.
this article's from 2021, and it says he's been doing it for 15 years, and this is purely anecdotal, but it says I've seen levitation, eyes rolled back to the back of the head, foaming at the mouth, people falling on the floor and slither like a snake across the ground.
There's so many bad jokes you can make with this.
A slithery little snake.
No, I mean, he's all of that you could see in a bad adult film too, probably.
Dude, all of that shit you can go see in fucking downtown Cleveland. Like, yeah. And
I don't know.
but then he talks about like speaking languages which are, you know, unknown to the person that's actually speaking them, and then of course
What's
like
this
the
guy's
super,
name again?
Vince Lampert, Lampert. And it even says like, you know, actions that you would think come from a Hollywood script, but it's actually a battle priests have been fighting for millennia. Like when you fucking talk about it, like it's so fucking righteous. It just seems ridiculous. And, you know, I don't know. I've never been in that situation, but like it just seems so fucking theatrical. And like I don't know. It says he went to Rome where he apprenticed under a Franciscan priest for 3 months, witnessing 40 exorcisms. And it was, you know, an eye-opening experience that taught him how not to focus on the forces he was battling, but the power he has at his disposal. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I don't know. I mean, I feel bad because we're kind of beating this guy up, but like at the same time, you know, he might have seen some real shit too.
No, and that's very well possible. But the point that I'm making, and which we've already made, if you are doing thousands of exorcisms a year, where the fuck is the documentation? Where the fuck is the proof? Like, if this stuff is so skeptical for literally everyone, why wouldn't you just be like, oh, well, here's all the shit that I did? You know? Or is it one of those things where, like, the documentation goes right to the Vatican and it's never heard from again? You know, who knows? Like, all of this shit might be totally real. I don't know.
I'm looking here at his wiki article, and it says he was quoted in an article by The Atlantic that as of October 2018, he had received 1,700 phone calls or email requests for exorcisms, the most he had ever in a year. So, 1,700 requests.
See, this
Either
is
the
kind of
devil's kind of busy or people are just really messed up. One of the two. I don't know.
well, this is kind of like what you were talking about, where it says like he uses secret tests to make sure someone isn't faking it or perhaps misled, which is pulling out a vial of tap water rather than holy water, seeing how they react. He'll bring a sacred object and read scripture to see how someone might react and if they have an elevated perception. And it says, sometimes it's easier for someone to believe something else is doing it than it is to accept that they have schizophrenia or their mental illness. See, like, that is the shit that's fucking scary. Like, if you have not been diagnosed or misdiagnosed and you literally think you're possessed, but like you actually have a mental problem, you know, and you're not getting the proper help, like that shit is fucking scary. But to go full left field fucking crazy batshit, what if it was actually possession, like was the mental illness? You know what I mean? Like, what if you were misdiagnosed with a mental illness, but it was a possession? What if they're the same thing? You know what I mean?
Good
I don't know.
point.
I mean, I know they're fucking not, but I'm just making the point. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, dude, I don't know. But anyway, let's see. This guy, it says many exorcists choose to keep their identities secret, which he chooses not to. See, then this is where it gets like, okay, dude. So part of his job is to determine why there is demonic activity, whether that be a location or a person. And often the root is the occult, but in some cases it's giving into an unhealthy brokenness, such as anger, you know, whatever that is. But this is the part that makes it like ridiculous. The pandemic gave him time he needed to write a book about his experiences, which is currently for sale online, blah, 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 blah. He wants to share his ministry to educate people. And I'm like,
do you think people that are possessed respect his personal space and wear a mask?
maybe like a Halloween mask.
Excuse me, Mr. Demon, I'd feel a lot safer if you wore this mask, please.
Right. Sorry.
He tries to put some mask on somebody. They're like, no.
Right. This guy's definitely possessed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't know, because I don't have any experience with this kind of stuff. But if you're telling me that you're performing thousands per year, that's, you know, like you said, what does that actually mean? But you're also telling me that
you have
you're
to
doing
do over 4 a day to make it.
Like, and does that mean like you're exercised and you're exercised and you're exercised? Everybody have a good day. I'm out of here. Like what the fuck does that entail?
Just doing aerobics classes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just it all seems like bullshit to me.
Yeah,
But
I'm not challenging it. Any negative spirits or demons or whatnot, I believe that you're real. Please don't fuck with me.
Oh, I'm not saying that none of that shit isn't real. I'm just saying I think these dudes are fucking bullshit. Like, they're bullshitting people. You know?
What if he's like Michael J. Fox in The Frighteners, where he's actually working with the demons and having them possess people only to exorcise them out? And
well, then that's a hell of a racket.
Did you ever see that movie?
No.
So, like, the premise of the movie is, like, Michael J. Fox plays a character, and his name's Frank Bannister, and he gets into an accident and his wife dies. But throughout getting in that accident, it's altered his perception, and he can see spirits now. And so basically, he abandons, like, his profession and all this other stuff and has these spirits, and he works with them to, like, haunt houses, and then he'll go and, like, help remove the spirits from the houses, but they're in on it with him. It's pretty funny. It's like a comedy horror movie. Peter Jackson directed it, though.
So it has a giant monkey in it?
No.
No,
but Gary Busey's son's in it. And let's see.
Little Gary Busey?
Little Busey. But yeah, no, it's a good movie. But yeah.
Let's see.
Right.
I'm just looking this up real quick because it says the Catholic Church doesn't charge anything for an exorcism, but it's like pulling teeth to get one. In the Protestant arena, many of us do them for free. Others charge, but sometimes those charges are to offset cost. And it just depends on the experience and the successful testimonies. Bob Larson, who I have no idea who that is, but apparently he does exorcisms. He charges $500 an hour, and people line up to pay it. See, like, to me, when I hear shit like that, I think of, like, faith healers. When they're just like,
exactly.
You know, give me whatever you got, and I'll fucking do it for you. I don't know, man. To each their own. I mean, if it works for you and you're going through something terrible and that's your go-to to fix it, by all means, I wish you well and I hope everything works out for you. But I'm just not buying it, you know?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
there you go.
Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded.
No, we're clocking in at 1 hour 11 minutes tonight. So, and I think that's a good opportunity to kind of close it out for tonight. It's already 9:25, and I'll save what I have for next time because it's actually a pretty interesting subject. It's a collective group of theories on what UFOs and ETs really are, and so this was from a Reddit thread, and I thought some of these were actually really fascinating. So. We will set that up for next week, but and I need to change this graphic to tune in Thursday nights between 8 and 8:30 p.m.
Just put tune in Thursday.
Yeah,
maybe tune in Thursday ?
But most of the people end up tuning in after the fact. So
yeah,
but. All right, well, I think that'll close it out for this week. Hopefully, maybe we'll have somebody in the seat next week. If not, it'll just be me and you again. I didn't think it was that bad.
No, I know I was probably I'm pretty terrible at talking about stuff, but I think we made it.
People did some shit and this thing.
Yeah,
no, you're fine.
Well, my problem is like I get bored as I'm telling the story unless it's something that I'm like super into.
Yeah.
But when there's a lot of filler, it's like I always have a really hard time weeding. Yes, I have a really hard time weeding everything out because I always feel like everything's important, but at the same time, I feel like nothing's important, just like life. So, yeah. All right. Well,
for Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, and everybody else from Type 3 TV's Ecosphere, this is John Budzinski, The Mistake on the Lake. Say goodnight, Buddha.
Good night, Buddha.